What's up, everybody? This is your favorite homeboy, and today I have a special guest with me, David Zai. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes,
All
yes, I
right,
like pie.
Zai like pie. And you had another saying on your YouTube channel. I can't remember what it was. What
The
was
right
it?
mortgage guy,
All
David's
right,
eye.
that's right. The more man, you could be like a rapper. Well, I just want to introduce David because David is not just an investor in short-term rentals, long-term rentals, but also my lender. He's been helping me currently with a cash-out refinance. And so David has a lot of experience in the lending industry, which is awesome because he also owns these short-term rentals. So he kind of knows what I'm going through, knows what I'm trying to do in the strategy. And so today he's on site in Destin, Florida. You got in there when? Friday?
So Edward, I was in Destin, over the weekend, and then we came into St. Augustine because just acquired a property here, and we love staying in other people's vacation rentals just to get ideas. So yeah, that's where we are right now, and right behind me is the beautiful harbor in St. Augustine.
Oh wow, man! Don't show it to me. I might get jealous. This is awesome. Well, I'm glad you're here. We're just gonna talk through a couple of basic questions. A lot of people on this channel like to know where to invest next. They like to get ideas. Florida is always a popular destination, so I was excited when you told me you had something going on there and that you're willing to talk about it on the channel. I think it's going to be great. Just to compare with all the various other short-term rental spots that we're seeing around the nation. So we're just going to go through some basic questions, and then we're going to put it through the EdBNB score. So we're going to put it through the paces. All right. So first of all, you're in Destin, Florida, but you've invested elsewhere, right? Where else have you invested? With your personal portfolio or just with other partners?
So right now we have Virginia.
Okay.
Two parts of St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
One in down. We were looking at down. Everything that we get, there's a lot of restrictions. So be really on the lookout for that. And then down in Florida and that's it right now.
What was the last thing you said? It kind of broke up.
In Destin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So pretty much just Virginia and Florida.
Yes.
Okay. I thought for some reason you had something in New York. Maybe that was someone
No.
Okay.
I've been looking up there.
But this is your first short-term rental. Is that right?
No. So we've tried it out in Virginia and it's pretty good.
With the nursing, with those nurses. Would you consider that short-term rental? Just
I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a demand, it's a market, and there's people that there's a need. And we didn't think there was.
Was that the thing that sparked your interest? Was like, wow, this short-term thing is pretty lucrative. Maybe I can kind of, dip my toes a little bit more. Was that the thing that did it? What was the catalyst that made you kind of switch from long-term rentals to saying, okay, I want to start really going after some short-term rentals?
That's part of it. The other thing that kind of sparked it was, some of my long-term rentals, I finally walked into some of them recently that where the tenants left the properties. And after looking at it, like 4 years into a full rehab, as beautiful as this unit as I'm in right now, I'd walk in and basically everything's done. Okay. I walked into one of my units last week and, the refrigerator door was left open with the power running, the freezer going. So all of that electricity loss, everything was broken in it. I mean, the complete $50,000 rehab that I had in the house was gone.
Long-term rental, right?
Yeah, in the long-term rental.
Okay.
So, there with the short-term rental, I think there's less loss in it potentially. I know there's going to be more wear and tear, especially with higher occupancy use, but it's definitely something that I'm willing to venture down.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, that's what I do for a living is long-term rentals. And it's unfortunate that you had that experience. It's interesting though, that it's kind of like that kind of soured you a little bit. Seems like from, oh, this guy's in there, and it's not like you're going in after every checkout to see how he's doing. It's like he's got the place free reign for 6 months, right? And so it's like anything can happen. So I could kind of see how that could be a downside. I will say that for the most part, as far as our experience, it's I don't think it's really even happened once. And we've managed like over 100 units here in the Virginia area. It is like a black swan event in the long-term rental industry. But you're right. Yeah, the short-term rental does have a little bit more wear and tear, more guests coming in. But the flip side is you get to kind of check up on them after every checkout. So hopefully you can, if there is some sort of major damage situation going on, you can kind of cut it short, right?
Yeah, and I also find I've been looking into a lot of short-term rentals for a long time, Ed, and one of the things that I'm always seeing is the appreciation of prices. And one of the things that my mentor taught me a long time ago was if you buy properties, the most you can afford, David, and you're going to make money, because whether you make money in receiving rents and getting cash flow, or you're receiving money from the increase in equity. And just looking into Destin from January of 2020 into today, you see a lot of these properties that have doubled in value.
Wow.
And, being down there and looking at everything, like, just a full business trip where we're traveling up and down the coast and just looking at different areas that we like, you could really tell there's no more land to be built. Like, the houses can go up, and they go up and they're super high now, like, 4 stories. 5 stories is basically as high as they want to make it. The houses are real postage stamp, but there's definitely a demand to be down there. And what the approach that we've been taking is, like, we're trying to buy houses in different areas that we would want to vacation, things that we really enjoy, whether it be the mountains, the lakes, the beaches. That's kind of what we've been looking for.
And there's a lot of beach areas in America. Why did you choose Destin?
So a couple years ago, it's more than a couple years now, probably about 7-8 years ago, my wife and I, we fell in love with Marco Island.
Marco Island, huh?
Marco Island.
I don't think I've been there. That's off Destin?
No, that's out by Naples. And
oh, okay.
So, coming from Virginia Beach, we had no idea that there was any water other than brown water, blue water down in Miami and Fort Lauderdale. We just never experienced that Gulf Coast. And if you've been to Marco, there's a bunch of shells there. But, going up to Destin, the first time my wife saw the island, she looked over and she's like, I know it's cold. Is that snow over there? And it wasn't snow. It was just the white sand. And, just going there and constantly seeing the calm emerald green water, we fell in love with it. And I mean, even if we break even or have a little bit of a loss, it's fine for us. It's a long-term investment. Yeah,
that's true. The sand there is just awesome and fine and beautiful. And the water's warm. It's just, oh man, it's definitely different than what you see on the East Coast, right?
Oh, for sure.
Even it's unique to the West Coast. I mean, the West Coast beaches are different. So, I mean, that you bring up a good point is, sometimes people buy these short-term rentals. When you buy a long-term rental, sometimes people might tell me, okay, I want to buy a house I might want to live in, but it's like, do they really ever live in it? Do they ever move into it? Not really. But for vacation rental, it's cool because you can say, I want to buy a home, and hey, if it's not hitting it out of the park for investments, for returns, but it's just a place we love, it's still a win. And you can, like you are now, I mean, enjoy that location. And the likelihood of you doing that on a short-term rental is way higher, right?
Right.
So that's really cool. Now tell us about your property. You said you have 2, right? So are you in the middle of both transactions right now?
Yeah, we identified a couple real estate agents that are willing to help out. And, it was really eye-opening when we first called agents down here, let's say down in Destin, right?
Yeah.
You tell them your budget and you think, hey, I'm a small town guy from Virginia. And now I'm trying to go to the big leagues and compete with, the people down in Destin and everything. And so we started out with, let's say, a budget of $800,000. And the agents would not even return our calls.
Wow.
They wouldn't send us listings or anything. So finally, we were on a Facebook group just like yours, and our agent reached out to us, and that's really how we kind of identified agents in different places. Like, so, she reached out. Both of them actually in the areas that we've purchased in right now are, agents that we met off of Facebook group, and, they've been excellent. I think, at least down in St. Augustine, I know we've formed a really good friendship, and, I think the world of my agent down there, and, that's saying a lot when it comes from a lender. I deal with agents every day.
Yeah.
And, to see the work that they put into it, I mean, I have a total respect for real estate agents before, and now I have even more because, our agent, at least down in Destin, she took us around for 2 whole days, just getting to know the area. She brought in her contractor who spent hours with us, and that contractor happened to be her husband, and he's building giant houses right around the corner from the house that we're closing on. And, we actually met some really cool people in that neighborhood who ended up, we've kind of ended up befriending. And, I really think, having some, those friends that have their boots on the ground in those areas that you own are real important. So yeah, that's how we've kind of identified it. AirDNA, just constantly, picking the brains of people that know this business a lot more than I do. Just like in my mortgage business, before I joined a coaching group, I've always done a certain level. I would say maybe a C level production. And once I joined the coaching group and I learned from a bunch of people that are way smarter than me, they kind of gave me all these ideas of, not things that I've done wrong, but things that I could do a little better. And that's kind of my approach to the short-term rental game is, yes, I could buy a house that's 4 blocks away from the beach, or I can buy this house that's basically 3/4 of a block from the beach. You could hear the waves from the house. You could see the beach access. And I mean, the salt air is definitely everywhere because, there's a lot of wear and tear on the houses, but, I'm confident that, the equity levels can be there. And, talking to people down there, they keep on saying like, my magic number was 500,000 in equity earned in a couple of years. And, some of them made comments like, I wouldn't be shocked if, it increased in 500 grand within this year, because people are traveling and there's a high demand in those areas.
So you found your agent through Facebook. She's a great referral. So I have to keep that in mind if I ever need one. Yeah. But then she found you this house you're talking about. Is it one house or 2 houses?
Oh, I don't know. Well, right now it's one.
Okay, but, it's one. Okay, so it's this one, and it's under contract now.
Yes.
And was it off market or on the market?
It was on the market.
Is on the market. How many days was it on the market?
Not even a couple hours.
Wow.
When we jumped on it.
And then were there other competitors bidding against you?
Yes.
Okay. So you had to outbid them, right?
Yes.
What was it that made them choose your offer other than you gave them above list price or something?
So it was as is, like everything is truly as is. Even the house we closed on last week, everything was as is. The way that we won the house down here and closed on it was we paid cash for it. It was a full cash offer.
You offered cash, so there was no lending financing contingency. Sorry, lenders.
Yes.
You make it tricky.
Yes.
All cash deal. And were you the highest? They chose you because you're just the highest cash deal?
So it was all cash. There was no inspection at all.
Okay. Waive the contingency. Yep.
Yeah. No contingencies, literally nothing. And a quick close. And the earnest money was, $30,000.
Okay.
So, we indicated, hey, we want to play. We're serious about this. We want the house. And at least in Florida, I think a pool's important. And this house already had a pool. There's a lead time of, 6 to 8 months for a pool. And it was in a neighborhood I really enjoy. And this I keep on going back to the same thing. And when I started talking to people in the beginning of the short-term rental, they said, you really need to buy a house in a place you like and you enjoy. And, my biggest passion is I love fishing. I love being on the water. I love the salt air. Like, I don't think I could ever live in a place that doesn't have that. And these two places I can just visualize, now that we've got more and more remote work, I know I can spend my summers and my winters down in these two destinations. Now we're looking at a halfway point house, that we could, jump in our family van, drive halfway, spend time there, and then, come here and, eventually make our way all around the country. I mean, that's the goal right here.
Mm. Now you keep mentioning the place you closed last week. What is that? What is that property? So
that's a pool house in St. Augustine, about 1.5 miles from downtown, close enough to the beaches that make it really desirable.
Oh, wow. St. Augustine. I'm looking it up here. It's on the other side. It's like 5 hours away on the East Coast of Florida.
Yeah.
Okay. That's not Destin.
That is not Destin.
Okay. All right. So I was getting confused thinking that second place was there in Destin. So that's just a totally different location.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this one in Destin, can you tell us a little bit about what can you get for about 800,000 in that market?
800,000 in that market. So we looked at a house this weekend that's 800,000. And I would probably say, Edward, like, we in the last month or so probably made offers in on about 15, 20 houses.
Wow.
Solid offers, going over on the sales price, almost every offer. And for 800,000, we looked at a house this weekend. It's going to be way more like, it's not going to be as a beachy feeling. It's going to be more of a, residential type feel house, lower ceilings, not that, like, wow, status when you walk in.
Yeah.
Just, hey, this is comfortable. I want to bring a big family in here, that type of house. But they offer a lot of amenities. Like, we're far enough from the beach that we're going to have a golf cart that basically works the neighborhood and brings people to the beach access.
And how far from the beach? Were you saying maybe a block to 4 blocks or something?
I would say 4 to 5 blocks. So
okay, 4 to 5 blocks.
Yeah, each block is going to cost you $200,000 more probably.
Oh man.
And then once you go beachfront, that's going to be, millions more.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So in Destin, that was important to me is finding something. And I wanted to be in an area that's recession proof. At least in my mind, I think it's going to be as recession proof as possible. And that's something closer to the beach.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do you say? Because you're in a community, right? Would you say the makeup, are you in a community?
So this is a smaller community. This is literally probably a straight shot down this road. And then there's a little turn that goes into a cul-de-sac. I would say the community has, or the neighborhood or the streets, there's 2 streets, maybe have a total of about 60 homes.
Okay.
Maybe less in this area.
And would you say, like, what's the percentage makeup of all of them being short-term rentals?
On that street, I would say there's about 80%.
80%. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then how big is the house? Like, how many bedrooms, about how many square feet?
So, I'm a project guy, and that's my downfall. I love projects. So this house is currently a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. There's a garage out on the side, real nice garage. And once the structural engineers conversion, you got it. That's the name of the game.
Is it one of those houses that are kind of like raised up above because of, like, in case water comes in, from the beach or something like that? Or are you close enough where it has to be raised up a little?
Yes. So it's on piers. So the contractor's telling us, okay, look at that. That's the flood line right there. This is where all the new houses are built, and that's the flood line. So yes, they're raised up on piers. And, we learned something this week. While I was standing there with Matt, he's telling me, hey, we have different ideas. We can cut off the roof, get a crane in here, raise it up,
Wow.
build on top of it, and then stick the roof back on and retie everything in. And then you'll have that extra ADU, converted into a 2-bedroom unit out to the side. So, that drastically increases revenue. You throw in a pool here, it's going to generate another, 25 to 40,000 in revenue, and then you can pay it off in a couple of years. So like I said to you, the problem is finding that pool contractor. So if we determine one right now, it would be at least 6 to 8 months before the pool even starts to get built. And we don't want to miss the summer.
Pool. You didn't have a pool already?
Well, I've got so many transactions going right now. So the one in Destin does not have a pool, but there's room for a pool, and there's land.
So how many square feet is the one in Destin? About 2,000, 1,800?
1786.
That's close.
Yes.
1786. Okay. So you're saying if you add to it on top, you get another 2 bedrooms, maybe another 800 square feet or something?
Yes.
That's awesome. That's a project.
That is a project, but I love projects.
Yeah. That'll almost double your revenue, right? Go from 3 to 5 bedrooms.
Yeah. So the thing that got me in love with this house is this. Okay. So when I started talking to, the people that we befriended, and we started talking to the contractor that's building a house right around the corner that introduced us to them, their land was actually significantly smaller than my land. Okay. And they're already $5 million into that project.
Wow.
And they're further set back from the beach too. So this land's bigger. So let's just say I go into this with a $1 million cost, and we absolutely don't like the house. Just level it, create this big old monstrosity, 5,000, 6,000 square foot house. At that point, the cost of building is about 300 a square foot. So, let's just say 5,000 square foot, that's 1.5 million plus the $1 million acquisition cost. I'm $2.5 million into this. That 5,000 square foot house that the couple's building around the corner is $5 million. So even if I leveled this and put a totally brand new house on it and increased, or went over on my projected cost by 10, 20%, I'm still less than 5 million. I'm more in the 3 million range. So then I've got $1.5 million, 2 million in equity.
Mm-hmm. Those are numbers that I can't even comprehend. I mean, like I don't play in that big playground. I mean, that's a project. It's just, it's so hard for me to think about tearing down something like that. But you're right. If there's that potential, it's kind of like what they're doing in Northern Virginia, right? Mm-hmm. Tearing down these old homes and just buying it for the land.
Yes.
Well, that's really neat. So as far as managing this property, you're going to self-manage it, or are you going to try to find someone there to help?
That's the $1 million question. Don't know yet. So it's a big project, and this year could be the make or break year. So I really think it's going to depend on the condition of the property going into it, depending on what work can be done. There are some modifications to the house that need to be done, and that's probably why I got the house at a decent price, is because the kitchen's basically in the middle of the house. Yeah. There's no exhaust. The kitchen's actually in the middle of the house, or not the kitchen. The range is actually in the middle of the house.
Physically in the middle of the house. It's
physically in the middle of the house with no exhaust. There's no microwave. Everything. The kitchen's real small. So, in order to make this as efficient as possible, there's going to be an expansion project, and we all know labor's hard to get. I'm kind of blessed that I've got a couple teams of tradesmen that are willing to jump in their van and take a 9 to 11 hour drive down, and these are the people I trust and do work for me.
That's awesome, man. Mm-hmm. I had a stovetop in the middle of an island. I hated that on one of my vacation rentals, so I just had them renovate it, make a much bigger island, took that thing out, push it to the side of the kitchen. I hate it when they're right in the middle. There's you're right, there's no exhaust.
Yes.
Sometimes you get a downdraft exhaust, but those don't work as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, any type of, I don't try to modify any type of good engineering. And yeah, that's a big problem. So I know the house can't be put up for the rental market just yet in the condition it's in. So just got to get everything done quickly and smartly. And being down in Florida at this time of year, one thing you're going to notice is this is truly downtime because every other house has gotten some painting or some sort of rehab being done.
Okay.
And it's definitely the way of the land. So just have to plan accordingly.
So here's a great question that I know a lot of people are interested in. How do you estimate revenue? So using your house, a 3-bedroom, $800,000 thereabouts. How do you estimate revenue? Is that based off bedrooms? Or just how are you doing that?
So we're looking at the old data from the AirDNA. I've also going on the AirBNB and just kind of making a circle around the areas that you're interested in purchasing in, and looking at the nightly rates, the weekly rates, the partial week rates have kind of helped us identify what makes sense. So I use AirDNA probably 4 or 5 times a day. We'll go in and do the rentalizer tool, then look at the top performing properties, then compare it with Verbo, Vacasa, big property managers, AirBNB. And, based on the projections, as I mentioned to you in the beginning, is I want to find a place that I like using more than anything else. And parking my money, because earning that revenue or equity is probably more important to me than the cash flow. So I think I'm definitely going to be able to cover my mortgage plus some. And after the renovations are done, I think I can, if trends continue the way that they are, or even have a 20-30% decline, I think the money is going to be there for the making. So
what did you say on an annual basis for just the rents on a revenue? What is AirDNA saying? Something like that.
So I've had multiple, property management companies kind of, competing for the business and being down there. We took a lot of pictures of signs of, because every vacation rental down there has a sign posted on their fence or somewhere.
Right?
Yes. So, I've gotten a lot of their rental projections and looked at it, compared it to my AirBNB data, AirDNA data, and just comparing everything.
Yeah.
So we always, just like FICO for lending, we throw away the top number, we throw away the low number.
Yeah.
And we're just looking in that middle, right? And we look at it again and say, hey, how would I feel if I had a 30% decline in revenue from this number? Am I going to be able to cover my mortgage if I'm getting financing? Or, is this going to be enough of is this going to be enough to cover all those headaches? And, I think that it is. So the numbers that we're looking at down there is, I think, conservatively speaking, we can probably get about $100,000 a year on $1 million purchase. So that's close enough to my 1% number that I always have in my head. Okay. So on $1 million purchase, I want to get at least 100,000 in revenue. I think once we put the pool in there, that should bump it up to 1.25 or 1.4 range. And once we figure out the accessory dwelling unit, if there's any better use of that space, the land is massive compared to all the houses we looked at this week. And I think there's just potential to do anything we want on this property.
Yeah. So now I'm just curious, how close did AirDNA get to that figure? Were they a little low? Were they kind of lowballing, or were they pretty spot on?
They were right around 85,000.
Yeah, I found that they're pretty low. That they're usually pretty conservative.
They're very conservative.
I don't have AirDNA myself, but everyone I talk to, and when they're telling me the numbers they're seeing, I'm like, that sounds low. So it's interesting. You kind of took a combination of AirDNA, some local experts, kind of like your own little formula, threw out the high, threw out the low, took the mid, and came out with around 100,000.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Okay, all right. And now you have zero leverage in that property, are you planning on doing a cash out refi once the dust kind of settles to pull some money out, or are you okay with having all your money parked there?
Oh, no. That's
That's a no.
You know, that is a thing that I was born and raised learning. Mom and dad always said, David, save all your money and pay your house off. And now I've had to reverse teach it to my mother, and say, no, mom, we want to leverage all that money and, you purchase, properties and, generate that cash flow and building of equity. So yeah, that brings up a really good point. So I know I touched on it with a couple people recently. And that's important when you're purchasing your vacation rental, that you talk to an agent or a mortgage officer that knows what they're talking about. So shameless plug here. However, what I did when, let's say the property down in St. Augustine that we purchased cash on. So what I did was I financed in the repair costs. So, what my contractors are going to be charging up front, plus the material cost. So I'm just going to use simple numbers so we can, visualize this together. So if this house was 500,000 and I financed in 100,000 in rehab costs, that's 600,000. That's total financed all in. So if I were to just buy the house at 500,000, if I were to turn around in less than 6 months and we pulled cash out of the property, we'd only be able to use the acquisition cost and pull out 80% of the 500. So get 400 grand. However, now with me purchasing it with the 500 and 100,000 in rehab cost, up to a total of 600,000. And if I were to do a delayed financing cash out on this, I'd be able to pull out 80% of the 600,000, which is going to be closer to the true acquisition cost of the house. So now the only thing that I have into the house is just the rehab cost. The other option is a lot of times, we have these debt service coverage ratio products, DSCR. There's a DSCR where we know we've got this revenue coming in and we're going to be able to meet, let's say a 1% premium or coverage ratio. So your mortgage payment is, 300,000 and the appraised value plus the rental comp schedule says there's 3,000 and there's a 1% coverage. So it's covered. The other option is to go in with no ratio. And I've done that even personally on some of my properties, is just go in. This was the quickest close. They really don't take just the acquisition cost into place. They take the appraised value. So if I got a good value on the house, let's say this house down in St. Augustine, let's say it appraises for 800,000. Well, then I can take 80% of or 70% of that, depending on what threshold I want to be in, and take that out as cash out and then acquire additional properties with it. So just doing that Burr method on steroids.
Yeah. The beauty about the appraisal method is you could pretty much pull out more than what you put in if the numbers work, right?
Yes.
And why wouldn't someone do it that way? If it hasn't risen by that much, then you may want to consider these alternate methods just to pull out as much as you can, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's different strategies. Now, this is really good stuff and kind of like where your expertise comes in. And we'll definitely put your information below if anyone's looking for a lender to do this. But like if they were, if someone wants to cash out refi, now you pretty much can work in any state, right? Because you're helping me on my properties in Texas and Pennsylvania. Is there any state that you don't?
No, all 50.
Okay, all 50 states. All right. So David Zai is your guy, all 50 states. So if someone was to do a cash out refi, what's a good rule of thumb for like loan fees as part of their closing costs? Because, guys like me and guys who aren't even in real estate, it's so hard to know, like, what's a good cost so that I don't have to shop it around all the time. How do I know it's like, this is a fair, amount that I can be paying for my loan costs? What's a good rule of thumb? And I know it depends on whether you're doing DSCR or no ratio. What would you say to that?
Oh, that's a tough question because, there's a lot of factors that go into this. And, Yeah. So, the different loan programs, that's a factor. The credit score. So that's truly a factor. So,
let's assume like great credit scores, and let's just say we're doing a traditional cash out refi, appraised value type of deal.
Okay. So I'll give you a range.
Yeah.
So if it's a traditional conventional loan, and it's a full cash out, I would say anything under 500,000 anything under 400,000, you're probably looking at, I would say, at least 4% to 5%. So that would be the percentage of total cost, not just closing, but your escrows. That's assuming you didn't waive escrows. Okay. All of your
let's
fees.
take out escrows. Let's take out title company, just lender fees. Just so, because, those are always going to vary, right? Escrow, no escrow, title company, right? So just the lender fee itself, what would you say?
So lender fee before any discount points, I would not pay 1% at all for lender fees. Okay. I mean, I would look for a company that, could give you a lender fee that's just a flat fee. For instance, I think we're at roughly, $8.95 to $11.95 for a flat fee. Then you're going to add your discount points on. So with everything that's gone on this year, and with some of the changes that are coming down, with the high balance loan limits effect on April 1st, as well as the second home, changes. I would say, you're looking at roughly at least 3/4 of a discount point on top of that. So that's with really, really good credit. I compare the, short-term rental rates every day. However, once we get into, the debt service coverage ratios and things like that, then I think you're going to have to pay at least 1 point, one discount point. And that's basically 1% of your total loan amount. So not the purchase price, but the loan amount.
Okay. Do you have to pay that 1 point due to the type of, because it is a DSCR, or is that optional? I mean, do you have to pay that just to get the lower rate, or you don't have to pay it, you just get a higher rate, right?
Yes. But some lenders cap off the interest rates, so, if you want to be competitive, most of those lenders are going to charge some sort of rate. So when I'm looking at all of my different list of investors, and, I compare, let's say, the investor that I'm working with right now, yes, they have way lower rates, but the cost is a little higher. However, I could, take it over to this investor, and the rate is significantly higher with no points. So it just doesn't make sense sometimes not to pay any points. But I would shop, just figure out what product is needed, and, find out what you can get and qualify for. And, I think most of us lenders, we have our margins set, almost equal to each other. And, I think it's going to be at least, Edward, if I had to tell you the average between all the products, you're going to pay at least a point.
Yeah. Okay. That's fair. It's a good answer. I think, but like you said, someone who wants to do something like that, they just need to really sit down, and that's why you can't go to like these online lenders. I mean, it's like, it's a lot of options you got to look at. And like me, I know I bugged you a lot with questions and everything, just to kind of really figure out what I want to do. So I really appreciate it. But hey, I want to go into the last part of our interview here and talk about the EdBNB score. So I don't know if you've heard of this, probably not.
No, it's like the EdBNB score.
This is the EdBNB score. There's 5 criteria. Okay. So every place that I do an interview, I like to kind of run it through the paces here. So the first criteria is drivability. Okay. And you get a score of 1 to 5. Okay. 5 is the best. And of course, it's EdBNB score because it's obviously, things that are important to me, but you got to have a standard somewhere. So I define drivability as 5 hours from a major MSA. So for example, Poconos, the area that I love to invest in, I gave it a 5 because it's 0 to 2 hours from New York City, right? I mean, you can't beat that.
You can't.
And then I found that Pensacola Beach is about a 3. I give the score a 3 because it's about 3 to 4 hours from a major MSA. And I was looking on the map, and it is, I mean, part of the appeal is that it is far away from an MSA, right? You're kind of on the beach,
Right.
not too far. Unless you're like on the West Coast, you're not going to be that close to a major MSA there. So that's 3 to 4 hours, Pensacola Beach. Drivability, demand is the other criteria. And that is if that MSA has, if it's a 5, that MSA has more than 20 million people. So we're in this criteria, we're considering the size of the MSA, because just being close to an MSA, I mean, that's great. But then the size of the MSA is kind of like another score. For Pensacola, the MSAs that I found, and you can tell me what you think about this, but I found that it was close. The closest MSAs I could find were, let's see, Birmingham. Birmingham is somewhat close. I think that's about 4 hours, 5 hours away. And Atlanta might be just outside the 5 hour mark. And then there's another one. Let's see, number 42 here is Memphis. Memphis is pretty close. Memphis also. And then lastly, number 5 is Houston. Do those seem kind of like just outside of 5 hours? I think Birmingham is definitely the one that's in it. And that's a small MSA. So that's about 1 to 5 million is that. So I give that a score of a 2. Okay. So we got 1 to 5 million is a score of a 2, all the way to like 20 plus million, which is a score of a 5, right? That's a gold standard.
Okay.
And the reason why I put the proximity to MSA and driving distance is because it's just more accessible. Like some places like Big Sky, it's a beautiful place, Big Sky, Montana, but how many people are going to be able to drive there, or how many people have to take a flight in? And so if more people can drive there and you don't have to depend on the flights, then to me, that's going to be a better for investability, at least.
Right.
And then the third criteria is Dinero. Okay. Dinero is money. So we got drivability, demand, and Dinero. So you said about 1% was the gross for about $1 million home, right? So the net on that would probably be less, right? Because that's your NOI, right? That's without and that's without any expenses. So once you consider the expenses, you're probably looking at, I don't know, maybe 20% of that, 30% of that.
I would say I'm using 30.
30, so, okay, 30% of that. So about 30,000, which would be about 0.3%. Okay, so from a financial return, I'd say that's a score of a 1. So I got 1 is less than 5%. 2 is 5 to 10. And I'm seeing a lot of homes at these prices. Usually they're falling between that level score of a 2. So it's hard to get a high score on this one, especially with all the prices that have gone up, right?
Yeah.
Of course, the holy grail of this would be like 20+% net. And that would be a score of a 5.
I need to find those areas.
At these prices, it's hard. At these prices, it's hard. And then the fourth one is fun factor. Okay, this is where you're going to kick butt on. Fun factor, and I define that as, I think the levels were 5. 5 was it's friendly for both family, adults, and children, right? It has to be, it's like family friendly. It's not restrictive to just like adults, where like Las Vegas, it's like, it's not the best for kids, or, like Disney. I guess Disney would be a great, family, adults and children type of thing. So let's see. And I also, for fun factor, the amount of things to do, right? Restaurants, really good restaurants, two or more seasons, or it's one season, but year-long activities and great restaurants. So I was thinking like, this is not a real clear-cut, like objective way to score these things, but the difference between a 5 and a 4, a 5 had 2 or more seasons of very good, lots of fun things to do and good restaurants. A score of a 4 would be have one season with good restaurants, a lot of good restaurants. So I kind of felt like Pensacola would be a solid 4. What would you say? Because it's about a one season place, right? For the most part.
So, something that I found out was, so down in, that real southern coast down by Florida area, they have this thing called fall break, which I've never heard of. So October is supposedly a really good season for Florida.
What's the temperatures around October?
It's so right now it's cold in Florida. However, when I was here in January or the end of December, we were still in shorts and flip flops.
Wow.
So it was still about 80 degrees, 70. I think it was in the high 70s.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
So yeah, I mean, it's, now that I've befriended all these people down here in Florida and, these southern states, you see their posts. It's like, hey, it's 60 degrees in Florida. Everyone's hibernating, right? So up until that point, it seems like everything was fine. And yeah.
When do things get slow? You said about now, because people are like doing all the renovations. So would you say like January, February? What are the kind of the slowest times?
Definitely January, February, maybe into the early part of March, but once, spring break start coming in, everyone wants to go to, these cool places, and, it's definitely a lot of things to do. For everyone. Mm-hmm.
So you're saying, January, February, people hibernate, but March through about December, pretty good temps.
Yeah. So, also you get the benefit of the snowbirds that come down to Florida.
Yeah.
So you may be able to get a 3-month rental. So maybe, the end of December, or, if you're in Central Florida, it's always going to be good because there's Disney and there's other attractions. I wouldn't say always, there's still going to be off seasons, but, at least I know down at the beach, if you want to be really safe, you could kind of insulate your income by accepting a snowbird from maybe November into February.
Mm-hmm. What do you think? What would you say are the 2 hottest months?
Oh, by far, it's going to be June and July.
Okay.
June and July, St. Augustine has the Nights of Lights. So December is really good. November, December. Yeah. Like I said, it's close enough to a downtown and, the beaches that, and there's tons of things to do. Boating, the restaurants, the fun factor. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want to invest anywhere that doesn't have the fun factor.
Yeah. I mean, for you, that's going to be like the number one criteria. I'd give it a solid 5. All right. You convinced me, David. Mm-hmm. We'll give it a 5 because it's almost like it is almost like 2 seasons then, or 3 seasons. I mean, if you're only saying that there's only 2 down months and everything else, I mean, even December, you have flip-flop weather, then it's much better than I thought, usually, like Poconos, I'd say July and August are the hottest. And then there's probably 1 month in around March, because there's ski season there, right? Mm-hmm. And then there's probably like November or the low season. It's kind of like, spread apart. Okay. Whereas Pensacola is like the 2 months are together that are low. So that's interesting. So I'd say it's a solid 5. Definitely pretty good long season for renting. Oh yeah. And I also wanted to ask, like, when you came up with that $100,000 amount, how many bookings are you thinking? Is that like a 52 booking type of year, or is that cramming it in every single weekday and week, or what are these bookings looking like? Or what do you think they'd look like? Because I know you haven't started that yet.
No. So I think they're going to be, so if you, there's pros and cons to everything. I think if we manage it right, and I'd utilize my my internal property manager as well as my virtual assistants to make sure the response times are there. I mean, I know what's important to us. So I don't know if I want to really cram them in, booking after booking, right?
Yeah.
I definitely want to have that, that just in case, because I think having the reviews and getting the super host and status and, having your own website and just having it just built out right is going to be really important for us. And that's the vision, is to eventually figure this out. And hopefully if it ends up being a good investment, then no, but I think having that space in between cleanings to make sure, I've got 3 or 4 crews that, either do the consistent cleanings, and it's probably where I'm going to possibly like differentiate from other people's thinkings. I think having like multiple properties in the areas that I've identified are important to me, because, if you have one property and the cleaner that's working for you has another person that has 10 properties that has an emergency cleaning, well, who do you think is going to take priority? It's going to be them.
Yeah. It's good too, because, things might go, break, between the guests, and you want to have time to fix it up and provide that 5-star experience. So it's good to have a little bit margin, especially as you're kind of getting used to the whole thing. Mm-hmm. So would you say like most of the bookings there are like week long or weekend?
I mean, I'm going to make it at least a minimum of 4 days. Okay. So I want to take advantage of that. Okay. I don't want someone that's going to, I mean, I want a minimum of 4 days. That's really the only way that makes sense. Like, this rental that we're in right now, only in it for 2 days. And I mean, gosh, there's going to be turnover in this house.
Yeah.
And there's that additional wear and tear. So,
4 days, like any usually over the weekend, but it could be during the week too. Okay. Mm-hmm. And are the estimates, or all the property managers are saying maybe like 52 times a year type of like frequency, the velocity of these bookings, would you say?
I haven't, honestly, I haven't even looked at that. I haven't even looked at that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I think you might be, I might think you were really conservative on that 100,000. I think, with minimum 4-day bookings, you could be looking at a lot more, but I know you're just looking at it conservatively just to kind of cover everything. But it'd be interesting to see what your first year looks like.
Yeah. I mean, we'll get back on here in 1 year and look at the numbers again and see if it made sense on these purchases. So I'm not going to beat myself up one way or the other. Like I said, this is a place that I can definitely see myself, taking advantage and using the property when it's not occupied. I have the ability to work remote. So when the weather's not what I like back home, I'll go park in that property and work in it.
You drove there, right?
No.
See, drivability.
Well, see, we didn't do that because, I got to cram 2 locations into one.
Oh yeah.
And, taking weekdays off in my industry is not very easy to do. So this time we didn't drive, but in the future, that's the plan, we, my sister and I, we love vacationing together, and
that's great.
There's been talks about, hey, we need to get one vehicle and, just be able to have multiple drivers, because that makes it a lot easier. So the drivability is definitely going to, I think it's drivable, but definitely not in the 5 range. Okay. Right. Drivability. I think 3 is an accurate assessment.
You gotta get a little vacation rental bus and ride it off.
Yes.
Yes. For your business, right? You got to use the check on your investments.
Yeah. And that's huge. So, I actually have some friends that are really into vacation rentals, and they turned me in or turned me on to this company called Anderson Advisors.
Okay.
And, they have attorneys that work there, accountants and everything. And, I used to think I knew a lot about that stuff. And after getting off the phone with the advisor, I was like, I really don't know a lot, because, he brought out next level stuff that's really going to help out. And, the profits that you make are great, but some of the potential like write-offs and things like that you can have, and how to insulate yourself from lawsuits and things like that, and having separate entities and entities set up in different states, that's really important. So just trying to do everything right, set up all the systems and processes before I jump head in on this.
Are you ready for the last criteria here?
Let's go.
Let's see if you can guess what it is. Okay, so we've got drivability, demand, Dinero, the fun factor. The other one, what else will impact a short-term rental investment?
Gosh, this is really hard, What else would impact it? Saturation?
The what?
Saturation?
Saturation. That's a good one. It's hard to measure. That's really hard to measure. That is a good one though. It's friendly factor. And what I mean by that is how friendly is the short-term rental and ordinances, the legality of short-term rentals in that area, because that can make or break your investment, right? If they start clamping down on it because it's the Wild Wild West and they don't have any rules yet, and they say, "Oh, I guess we're just not going to have short-term rentals," everyone's going to be selling, right? But if they're nice and friendly, like Disney, where it's like every house is next to you is a short-term rental, then there's another story. So one is very restricted. That's almost like DC, where you can't even have one unless you live in the property, unless you're like under the table, right? You can't even have it legally. It's stupid. Two is restricted, which means like almost like some parts of Northern Virginia that says you can have a short-term rental, but limited to 60 days per year that you can rent it out. Just really silly restrictions. Three is it's kind of vague. There's still kind of developing things. It's, people are still kind of reaching for, they're still having meetings and votes and determining stuff. That's kind of like the Poconos right now, right? Where a lot of people are just confused where to invest because some communities restrict it outright and others don't. And so that's number three. Four, some restrictions. Again, it's citywide, countywide, or it's okay, but it's community specific, which is kind of what you would expect. And five is like super open. Like it's really easy. You might not even need a permit, but you just go, right? So what would you rank the area you're in, Destin? What would you say it's at?
Destin, I would say there are restrictions for sure. I would say that's a 4.
Okay.
St. Augustine is probably more of a 3. But I've also looked at, a lot of the hotels stats in those areas too. And there's just not a lot of different lodging options for bigger families.
So were you required to get a permit?
Yes.
Was it pretty easy?
So we haven't, so the St. Augustine property does not require a permit. All it requires is an inspection, I think. But, there's no restrictions in this community. So, kind of going through and identifying the little areas is real important. And that's why I said that, just like you mentioned with the Poconos too, that's kind of what discouraged me out of Joshua Tree. Because, I was really serious about buying, multiple units in Joshua Tree. And as soon as I started seeing all this, the residents there are up in arms trying to, restrict short-term rentals. And one area that I've kind of glad that I didn't buy in is it's also in Florida, like Sarasota. The listings that the agent used to send me used to tell me what the restrictions are. And now those listings don't tell you anymore. Wow. So I know a lot of people in those areas are kind of like, digging their heels in and saying, no, we don't want short-term rentals in here. So I'm just looking for friendly areas. And,
so your township,
I know there's pockets.
The township or county that you're in now in Destin they don't really have a requirement, or just simple license that you just get.
Correct. Yeah. There's license, there's parking spots, there's,
and your community says it's fine. Obviously like 80% of them are already short-term rentals. So that's pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of communities down in Destin that are just big old giant loops with 300 houses on it that all look the same. And you look out the window and you're like, there's my neighbor's window too. And I mean, it's real close. It's literally this close in between the houses. You got just enough room to get a ladder for a contractor to go up there and paint.
Well, man, this is great. I've totaled up your score. You got a 15 out of 25. So
really, okay,
not bad.
Is that good? Okay,
hey man, it's an EdBNB score. It's like the third time I've done it, so sure, it's good. It's just a fun way to kind of measure each vacation rental. These criteria may change. There's some that is a lot of subjectivity. So, you know, some uses very objective data like the distance and the population and the returns, and then two of them, the fun factor and friendly factor, is a little bit more subjective, right? You know, the restrictions not so much. So I try to just come up with a balance between return, fun, right? A little bit of investment, a little bit of you know, personal use interjected into the score. So 15 out of 25 is the grand total. Congratulations.
All right. Yay.
All right. Man, I really appreciate you doing this, David. This is great. And next time you're able to carve out some space on your house there in Florida, I'm going to park my Airstream on there so I can have like the cheapest AirBNB in that area, because I can't afford the $1 million for a house. So I'm just going to need a little land for my Airstream. Okay.
All right. I can help you with that $1 million though. I can definitely help you.
Yeah, I can always borrow it, right?
Yes.
I just won't be competitive.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, just depends on what the goal is. I just, you know,
I'll wait
I
for
love
it to cool down.
Yeah. If it ever cools down, you know, it could be.
It'll be 2 million by then.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is great, man. Thanks again for answering all the questions and giving us a good inside scoop to who you are as an investor, as a lender. And again, I'm going to put your information down in the comments. And so if anyone wants to reach out to you, they can. If you like this video and you want to see more content like this, thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe. This is your favorite homeboy and David Zai. He don't lie. And he's your favorite lender guy, signing out.
All right. Thanks, Ed.
Yeah, man, this is great.